When was a narcissist in your life humbled to their core? I was 16 when my mom replaced my dad with my stepdad, Mark, and I hated her for it because Mark was awkward as hell. Like one time, he caught me sneaking out of my window at 3 a.m. in Phoenix, Arizona, and instead of grounding me or telling my mom, he asked to have a talk about my feelings and hormones. After that, I never took him seriously. Whenever he picked me up from school for bonding time, I would blast the most explicit songs I knew, and if he tried to turn them off, I just used the magic words, "Dad would have let me play," and immediately got what I wanted. Even when I shouted the house down at 4 a.m. playing Valorant, skipped school for a week straight, or asked for $250 shoes, that line worked every time. But the thing is, I only did all those things to scare him away. But apparently, he wasn't leaving without a fight, and it wasn't until I filled his gas tank with rocks and caramel sauce that he finally left. And before you guys hate me, you should probably know that the whole time my bio dad, Rick, was telling me to do all this, because if I didn't, according to him, it proved I was a horrible son who never loved him. And once Mark was finally out of the picture, Rick slid back in a few months later. But it wasn't long until I regretted my decision, because Rick was out for blood. Within a week, he had wailed on me twice and left me with a limp because I had left the hallway light on overnight. And I was convinced the whole thing was my fault, so I was ready to keep it to myself until I saw something that shattered my heart to pieces. I caught my mom before she put her makeup on, and there were cuts all over her face. When I asked what happened, she just told me she accidentally walked into a door. I knew I had to do something, but back then, I was just a scrawny 16-year-old with no backbone. So in a last resort, I called Mark. But right after I pressed the call button, I regretted it, because that's when Rick barged into my room and asked me where the TV remote was. I just stayed silent because I already knew what was coming next, and sure enough, I was body slammed into my floor so hard that I almost threw up. I couldn't even hold back my tears, which made Rick even angrier. So as I lay on the floor trying to pretend I was somewhere else, Rick shouted at me for a full 5 minutes about how pathetic and worthless I was. But that's when I heard a noise from the front door. Within seconds, Rick was pulled off me, and he was hit so hard that red started pouring down his back. Through my blurred vision, I could make out the face of my stepdad, Mark, and a feeling of comfort washed over me. I crawled upstairs, and by the time Mark was done, Rick would never be able to use his hands for probably anything ever again. And instead of calling the police, Mark just dumped his crippled ass in the middle of nowhere, and he'd never bothered our family again.